Hi there! Today, I'm going to introduce you to a character who might seem pretty simple at first glance, but at the same time is actually really cool, Monsieur Loaf, or in Ukrainian, Monsieur Egg. Using this everyday ingredient as an example, I'll start introducing you to the basics of classic French cuisine, and I'll show you how to hone your culinary skills and master the craft like a true professional. So, let's get started. Let's go! When asked which cuisine is truly the absolute best in the entire world, I always answer by quoting the great and very famous Paul Bocuse, who famously said that the best cuisine is simply delicious cuisine. Still, French cuisine deserves special attention, since it is the one that has been included in UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. This absolutely does not diminish the profound importance or inherent value of other diverse cuisines, but I still strongly recommend diligently honing your culinary skills and carefully taking your very first foundational step specifically with classic French cuisine. It was the French who were indeed the only ones truly able to take all this extensive knowledge, practical skill, and valuable experience, then meticulously classify it, systematically organize it, and ultimately codify cuisine itself as a distinct and recognized discipline. So, I have to say, the French are wise people. French cuisine has a very long history. It was already well known before the Middle Ages and then continued to develop and evolve. At one time, people loved lavish, grand banquets with elaborately decorated food, adding lots of spices. Over time, French chefs reached a higher level. This happened when fragrant herbs entered the kitchen and more delicate, precise, and refined techniques appeared. And in this way, they replaced that huge amount of spices that had been used before. And when cooking, the focus shifted to the value of the main ingredient at the heart of the dish. Do you know the main mottos of French cuisine in its international reputation? There are 4 main ones that are mentioned. The first is sophistication, elegance, luxury, and of course, quality. And all of them are truly and genuinely worth following if you sincerely desire to become a truly accomplished culinary chef. The French have also boldly and unequivocally claimed the prestigious title of the esteemed founders of the restaurant business and, in general, public catering establishments. After all, one version of the origin of the word restaurant says that people who went for a bite to eat during their lunch break would visit small houses, establishments, boutiques, call them what you will, where certain women, often referred to as matrons, would prepare these lunches. They would go there to restore their strength, which in French sounds like restore, to recover. So the word restaurant comes from the word to restore. And no matter what people say about the French themselves, about their nation, about their boldness, for some people, they really are cool. And I'm truly grateful to fate that my culinary life, my culinary career, began in the right place, namely in France. Yes, I had to go through quite a few challenges, from learning the language from scratch to working in huge catering companies to studying in schools. And all of this continued with internships and work in Michelin-starred restaurants. The story sounds almost magical. France, Michelin-starred restaurants, studying, internships. But believe me, I had my share of screw-ups. And me, who seemed like the golden child, the straight-A student, the obedient one, well, I really did have frying pans, pots, and some pretty colorful language thrown at me by crazy chefs who ruled their kitchens with confidence and wouldn't let anyone near their prized knives. And honestly, the biggest screw-up, the one I'm still really embarrassed about to this day, happened when we were preparing for a dinner for 20 or 25 people, and I was in charge of plating the desserts. I had to decorate some kind of opera cake, or something like that, I can't even remember exactly now, using a piping bag. In our main course, I'll definitely teach you how to make it, because such a simple thing is also a sign of your professionalism. So I'm standing there with this piping bag, decorating the plates, drawing raspberry coulis with it. Raspberry coulis is a kind of liquid sauce. I think you already know, and for those who don't, we'll definitely learn about it in the main course. I was so embarrassed because I wasn't a 13-year-old girl anymore. I was already over 20, yeah, and he saw me as, kind of. A truly promising professional, very meticulous. I really wanted to live up to his expectations. And here I am, just blowing it, breaking down right there. I don't know why. I really don't. I never even had the habit of licking everything or sticking my hands everywhere. But then this happened. From that day on, it became a taboo for me. And every time I want to taste something somewhere, to lick it automatically, just out of habit. I remember that chef, his devastating look, how he wanted to destroy me. And then he said, "Olia, if I didn't know you so well, if I didn't know how clean you are and all your habits and skills that you already have, I would have honestly fired you that very day, because this is unacceptable." So, little screw-ups, yeah, and these gaps or lapses of ours are actually really cool, important, and necessary things for us to sometimes realize for life that this is not how things should be done, that you can't do things this way. And these small situations can warn us against bigger failures. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, really, but be afraid of repeating the same mistakes. Don't do it. My dears, why eggs specifically? Why do we talk about them so much? Why did I decide to start my culinary introduction to the course with them? Yes, let's agree, eggs are the product that is most often found in our fridge. It's the most common product in any country and any kitchen. We love it. It's incredibly nutritious, genuinely good for our health, and thank God, it's affordable for each of us. So please love and respect them. Glory to eggs. Yes, and if you didn't know, let me tell you, or remind some of you, that in general, culinary skill and overall suitability for working in a restaurant are judged by your ability to consistently make the perfect omelet and perfectly creamy mashed potatoes. Even if the restaurant you're going to work at has never had and will never have omelets on the menu, a real chef must know how to make one. Otherwise, they're not a real chef, just a bit of a pretender. I also have my own sad, unfortunate story connected to omelets because at a certain point during my training at school, I was working on making bread. I was quick with the sauce, with the meat, and I'd already be saying, "Chef, what else can I do?" I have a lot of free time, and at that moment he says to me, "Listen, make me an omelet. I'd like to have lunch." And I was like, PFFF, an omelet. Me, we're talking haute cuisine here. We've got a dinner coming up, an omelet. And he goes, yes, but a real, classic French omelet. Do you know how to make it? And then I catch myself thinking that, apparently, I didn't start my culinary career with that, and I probably don't really know how to make omelets. I can guess, but I'll give it a try. And what do you think? Of course, I got caught making a bad omelet the first, second, and third time, and I was so embarrassed. I just hung my head and realized that I was far from being a professional chef. I'm not ready yet, even though I had already imagined myself in a real kitchen, because I can't even do the basics. And the chef knew about it. The chef knew and just wanted to put me in my place and make me understand what the key things are, what forms the foundation of French cuisine. So for the next 3 days, I was really dedicated to making omelets. I understood that without mastering this technique, I wouldn't rise again in the chef's eyes to the level I wanted to be at. What's so special about an omelet? Just think about it. I'm sure you've seen it more than once at a restaurant or maybe at home. A hard-boiled egg that's just not cooked right, with that blue ring around the yolk. That means it's either overcooked or it wasn't good quality to begin with. Because even to cook a hard-boiled, soft-boiled, or runny egg properly, you need to follow the right temperature and timing. It's these kinds of details that set an amateur imitator apart from a professional. You get what I mean. So, what are the benefits of eggs anyway? This product is incredibly rich in proteins, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. Eggs are easy to cook. They're very well digested, and it seems like people all over the world genuinely love and regularly use them. These days, you can honestly and truly call the egg a real superfood. Eggs are the head of it all. Now, I'd like to bust some myths about eggs. So, the first question that comes up a lot, are eggs harmful? In reality, eggs do contain cholesterol, yes, but it's called good cholesterol because, thanks to their composition, which includes lecithin, this good cholesterol is absorbed as much as possible, absolutely 100% by our body, and it doesn't build up on the walls of our blood vessels. So there's no need to worry that eating eggs in general will lead to cardiovascular diseases or increased cholesterol. Of course, you should consult with a specialist, as everything is very individual, but in general, the average person can eat, and it's considered normal to have 2 to 3 eggs a day, even every day. This is absolutely safe and even a valuable and nutritious ritual, or, I don't know, habit. So there's no need to be afraid of eggs. Just like with any other product, eggs have their own classification. According to international standards, eggs are classified into 3 categories, A, B, and C. But only category A eggs actually reach the end consumer, us, the buyers, or restaurants. The rest, categories B and C, are used for industrial purposes. In turn, category A has 2 other, let's say, subdivisions or subclasses. These are extra fresh and fresh, that is, extra fresh eggs and fresh eggs. Let's note that there is no such thing as a not fresh egg category, because those simply aren't fit for consumption and have no right to be on store shelves, let alone in your fridge. So that could be an omelet, a hard-boiled egg. They're used in baking, and so on and so forth. And table eggs can be stored for up to 25 to 28 days. To figure out whether they're table or dietary eggs, usually, and according to Ukrainian law, the producer has to mark them with a tattoo of the appropriate color. Blue means table eggs, SS, and red means dietary eggs. The best, most optimal storage period for eggs is indicated as up to 30 days. But if the egg is stored in the fridge according to the guidelines, preferably not on the fridge door, because every time we open it, we really disrupt the temperature a lot, but somewhere on the top shelf, then the egg can actually be stored for up to 2 months. Still, you need to be careful. We need to be aware and understand how it works inside there, right? Don't abuse this, but also don't rush to throw out an egg just because its expiry date, according to the packaging, ends today. All right, please be smart about it. Size. Does the size of the eggs matter? There is a separate classification for egg sizes. There are a total of 7 categories. The first, highest category is an egg weighing 70 grams or more. The lowest, 7th category is an egg weighing less than 45 grams. On average, an egg, the typical average one, should weigh between 50 and 55 grams. These are the ones we most often see at our Ukrainian markets. We'll definitely talk about these kinds of nuances, details, and specifics, like how to choose products such as meat, fish, vegetables, and fruit in the main course, where we'll go over in detail how to buy, where to buy, and how long to store each product. And now, let's get started making a classic omelette. So now, let's move directly to the dish itself, the very one I once stumbled over. And I don't want you to make the same mistake, whether you're going for an internship at a restaurant to test your skills, or you tell your loved one that you want to make a French omelette. So now I'm going to teach you how to make it properly, in the classic way, comme il faut, as the French say. The standard number of eggs for this dish, specifically when mixed, according to international classification and standards, is considered to be 3. Very often, menus will say exactly that, a 3-egg omelette or a 3-egg omelette. That's the standard, that's the size that's just right. The one that, I don't know, will best meet all the nutritional needs a person has in the morning when we eat an omelette. Right now, you'll definitely catch yourself remembering that usually we carefully crack just 1 egg, put it gently in a bowl, and then immediately crack the very next egg in there too, right after the first. You can forgive yourself for doing this at home, but I want you to know how it should be done, how it's done in a professional kitchen, especially when an omelette is being made not for 1 person, not for 2, but for dozens of people, like it happens, for example, in hotels. In that case, each individual egg meticulously needs to be cracked first into a small, separate bowl, carefully making absolutely sure it's perfectly fresh, that nothing extra or undesirable has gotten in there, a tiny bits of shell or any other foreign material you can possibly imagine, and only then, after this careful inspection, is it gently poured into the main mixture. After all, 1 spoiled egg can be that very fly in the ointment and really ruin your whole batch. So now we're going to do it the right way. Cracked it. The yolk is whole, so we pour it into the main mixture. By the way, another tip, crack the egg on a flat surface. Not with a knife, because you might break the shell into tiny pieces, and they can easily and quickly end up in the egg white. So, 3 eggs. We need a pinch of salt. Again, it's a myth that you need to add milk to an omelette. A real omelette is made purely with eggs. It's acceptable to add a spoonful of cold water. That's it, we add the salt. Next, we can use either a whisk or just a regular fork. For an omelette, we don't need to beat the eggs until they're foamy or make meringue or anything like that. We just mix until it's uniform. By the way, there's also this thing that people rarely use, but in haute cuisine restaurants, they pass this mixture through a sieve. This gives it the utmost tenderness and then uniformity. And again, we're also checking to make sure no extra bits of membrane or shell get in. Now we're going to learn another technique from classic French cuisine. This is the clarification of butter. You need to purify and separate butter because it contains both pure animal fat and proteins. And it's these proteins, yes, casein and lactose, which we're quite familiar with, that have a very low burning point. If we fry with butter, you've probably noticed it browns very quickly. Well, it's actually these proteins that are burning, giving us that less than ideal color, unpleasant taste, and usually an off aroma. And by the way, they're not beneficial either. These are the carcinogens everyone is afraid of, the ones people talk about and warn others that you shouldn't fry with butter. You just need to know how to do it properly. So, to clarify butter, all you need to do is heat it to a temperature above 60 degrees Celsius, and that way the proteins will turn into foam. It will be very easy to see. We scoop it off with a spoon, and what we're left with is pure fat, which you can safely use for frying later. So, at the same time, I've set a pan to heat up. It should be a non-stick pan. The pan should be the right diameter, between 18 and 24 centimeters, no more. Because when you're making 3 eggs, an omelette for 1 person, it should be fluffy, compact, and fit nicely, naturally, on a standard plate, with a diameter of 30 centimeters. Heat up the pan and add our already clarified butter. The temperature of the pan shouldn't be extremely high, about 120 degrees, for example. In one swift and decisive go, carefully pour the entirety of our fluffy omelette mixture into the preheated pan and immediately begin stirring constantly and gently from the outer edge toward the very center of the pan. The French also call it venirevate, that is, to make a wave. This omelette turns out fluffy and embossed. That's the difference. By the way, forget about covering the omelette with a lid. Please. Now I will reveal a big secret to you. When we fold the omelet, thanks to its own heat, it will continue to cook and reach that next level, the category of being more done. So please, always keep this crucial point in mind well ahead of time, and gently take the pan completely off the stove at least 5 full seconds earlier than you might initially want to, and even before it truly reaches the exact doneness you genuinely think you absolutely need. Alright. Also, once we've taken it off the stove, we let it rest for a few seconds, almost like letting it breathe. And this also allows the perfectly smooth surface to form, the very outside that we'll be presenting to our guest. In the meantime, we take out a plate, which should preferably be preheated, whether at home or in a restaurant, it doesn't matter. And next, the primary task at hand is also the careful presentation of the classic French omelette. We then gently fold 1/3 over towards the very center. Then we fold the other part as well. You can also neatly tuck in these edges so that it looks like a charming little boat, so to speak, or a small vessel. The omelette should be white, a uniform color on the outside. Yes, white with a yellowish tint. I mean, it shouldn't be brown or toasted. It can be slightly golden, if that's your personal preference or the diner's, but definitely not brown. All right. A white, ultra-tender French-style omelette made from 3 eggs is ready. I hope you've understood the essence of how to make it. The technique seems simple, but not everyone has mastered it. So please take it into your own golden hands, use it wisely, and truly be the chef. Yes, the range of dishes you can make with a whole egg, or by using the yolk and white separately, is simply countless. I've already told you about this. From breakfast snacks to full-fledged desserts, but we won't be able to cover everything today. So from the classics, we'll move on to a fancy egg dish. This is the omelette Poulard, the most Instagrammable omelette. It's precisely its appearance that attracts and fascinates. But how is it made like that? And with what? In what way? It's all thanks to the incredibly wide-ranging properties and versatile possibilities of this remarkable egg. I'll serve you the omelette Poulard as a full-fledged restaurant-style breakfast. This recipe is like a helper for you when you haven't thought ahead and salted the fish the day before, and you just have a piece of fresh fish, or you ran out and bought some. So first, with fresh fish, we check to make sure there are no bones. If there are any, we remove them using a special tool, like this fish tweezers. And remember, you should always carefully pull the bones out of the fish in the precise direction they naturally grow. First, this ensures that the bone does not break if we pull against its natural direction of growth, and second, it prevents us from damaging or ruining the delicate structure of the fish's meat fibers. You get it. We slice fish carpaccio to a thickness of 2 to 3 millimeters. That's perfect for carpaccio. We transfer the fish into a container until our omelette is ready, and you need to understand that the essence of carpaccio is all about quickly solving a problem or question with a quick marinade that, thanks to the thinness of the fish, works very fast on the product and saturates it with flavor as much as possible. For this, we need to prepare a kind of light marinade, one of the simplest and most accessible. This is together with dill. Dill goes best specifically with fish. We will need lemon juice. Of course, you can do this by hand without any gadgets, extra knives, tweezers, or strainers. But I'll emphatically repeat, it's exactly these very little things and the incredibly detailed approach to each and every process that truly distinguish an amateur imitator from someone who is genuinely aspiring to be a professional. So right now we're at the stage of preparing the marinade for the carpaccio. So we add 2 teaspoons of lemon vinegar and a pinch of salt. All the proportions and detailed preparation techniques will be available to you in the materials, which you can refer to at any time, check yourself, or look up so you don't have to rewatch the video 20 times. Red fish, just like dill, loves pink pepper. Yes, and now we add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We add dill. You can see, I have quite a bit of it. Yes, and another one of the main, key ingredients for carpaccio or tartare, whether it's for fish or meat, is onion. It can be white onion or it can be red. I like to add chives. They're more delicate and don't have such a strong aftertaste. You can also use green onion tops. Again, we'll talk about the different types and variations of onion in the main course. You can see just how many unexplored and undiscovered topics there are, and how vast the field of culinary science and the science of cooking really is. That's one way to put it. Today, we'll add shallots, an onion I want to use to demonstrate a cutting technique, one of many, called scissoler. The scissoler technique is specifically adapted for and used with onions and all their numerous varieties, meaning all types of onions. Break time equals 0.5s/. We then carefully cut our little vegetable in half. Next, while holding your fingers, by the way, you can practice this just like on the piano. When you're cutting, hold an egg in your hand to help with the slicing. You see, today we're looking at it not just as something to eat, but also as a handy tool to help sharpen your professional skills. So, holding the egg here in your palm, we curl our fingers around it like this and make lengthwise cuts about 2 or 3 millimeters thick. The thinner, the better in this case, because our marinade is quick, the fish is delicate, and we want the onion to be almost unnoticeable. Then we make crosswise cuts, like this, slicing through our layers, and off we go. It's very important to make all these cuts delicately and correctly right away, so that afterwards you don't have to do this. This is not the way to do it. I don't want you to do that just to chop the onion. Because when we do exactly that, chopping the onion like this, it releases juice, which quickly oxidizes it, starting the fermentation process. That's when you get that slightly unpleasant aftertaste, and it ends up reminding you more of a barbecue than of a fine dining dish. So we add this shallot to our marinade and mix it in. And whether you want to or not, yes, we chefs always taste everything. And now we pour that marinade over the carpaccio. Gently but thoroughly mix it so that every piece gets well marinated. While we prepare the omelet, the fish will have more than enough time to marinate and be ready for our plate. In the meantime, let's get back to the eggs. So, the Poulard omelet. There was this Madame Poulard because back in the day, restaurants were owned and opened by women called matushkas. That's what they were called. And it's said that she was the one who invented this omelet, which is now loved by both kids and adults. We separate the egg whites from the yolks. Everything should look nice, everything should be aesthetic, everything should be clean. So that life hack you see where people put the egg in their palm and let the whites drip through their fingers while the yolk stays in their hand. Please don't do that. At the very least, it looks pretty unappealing. And then, after every time you do that, you have to thoroughly wash your hands, dry them, and crack another egg. The point of an omelette soufflé is that we separate the whites from the yolks. We cook the yolks separately at first, start preparing them, and then add the whipped egg whites. So now, just like for a classic omelette, we need 3 egg whites. We immediately add a pinch of salt and some lemon juice, which we already have prepared. But I want to give you a tip. It's better to add the lemon juice not at the very beginning when you just start whipping the egg whites, but once the foam starts to form and the texture becomes a bit more liquid. In the meantime, turn on the pan, which should already have a lid prepared in advance, and set it to medium heat. Now you can add a drop of lemon juice As for the yolks, lightly salt them. Yes, and honestly, you can over-whip egg whites. The egg whites are perfectly whipped, as you can see. They're without sugar, and they're just perfect. Next, I add previously clarified butter to the preheated pan. Now I'm a prepared chef. Let's add them. Very, very, very quickly, spread them evenly and nicely over the entire surface. This will determine the appearance and your Instagram page's aesthetic. Blanching is a process that takes place in boiling water for certain products and then in ice water. We're not cooking the product, we're removing its skin. To make this easier, we make cuts like this. Crisscross. And on top of that, we also carefully remove the part that usually doesn't end up in the final dish. In some specific cases, we can leave the stem to beautifully decorate the dish. In the meantime, let's not waste time and remember that 30 seconds have passed and the yolks have already started to set. Now we add our whipped egg whites. That's how complicated Madame Poulard was. She really went all out with this omelette. Smooth it out. Cover it with a lid. Let it rise a bit more and set so it doesn't collapse. That's right. Cover it, and we need to wait exactly 2 minutes like this. Meanwhile, our water has come to a full boil. We drop the cherry tomatoes into it. When you see the skin just starting to peel away, 30 to 40 seconds will be enough for the cherry tomatoes. We can't keep the tomatoes in boiling water for too long, so they don't get cooked, and we also shouldn't leave them in cold water for too long, so they don't soak up unnecessary water. Alright, the omelette is rising nicely, looking great. Meanwhile, the fish has already marinated, and we can start preparing the dish for its final stage, serving it at the table. Next comes the plating and serving process. This part is highly creative, personal, and really requires inspiration and your own vision. Right now, it's just going to be pure improvisation. I'm just eyeballing half like this. Awesome! The omelette is ready. My frying pan has a coating that's safe for contact with metal utensils. If yours doesn't, don't do this. Use a silicone spatula instead. This is how we folded it. It's cooked through, it's whole, and it's hot and very vibrant, really beautiful, with an even crust. You can simply add blanched tomatoes, which will also bring juiciness, freshness, and provide that amount of vegetables a person needs in the morning. And remember, you don't need much. So we've gone through all the stages with you, from the egg's origin to it landing right here on our plate, from start to finish. We've figured out where to store it, how to buy it, how long it lasts, and how it works. Together, we've prepared the most classic, simple, yet essential dish for any chef aspiring to be the best, the Poulard omelette, and now you'll master its cooking technique in no time. So go ahead, grab those eggs, and let's dive into new culinary achievements. I'll see you in the main course. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there.